assistant, screwdriver. Give me that. I think it's complete. All we need is a bolt of lightning. It's alive! It's alive! Is that camera on? Who the turn the camera on? Well, now that we're out of my secret lab, what did you want me to do, Morty? Toy reviewing? Get the F out of here. I'm not doing that shit. I don't know what that guy's problem was, but anyway, happy Halloween, ladies and germs. It's been so long, but I'm finally reviewing the crossover's Frankenstein. Actually, it's Frankenstein's monster. Get it right. Actually, it's Frankentron. So it would be Frankentron's monster. The second big black and white horror monster reproduced in Transformers after Dracula's went over so well. Where else do you go besides the horrors of science? Religion, science. Anyway, let's get him off the operating table, or out of his box, and we shall take a look at this horrifying conglomerate blob turned robot. Here he is. He is using the Siege Impactor mold. So, first size comparison right there. Siege Impactor. This is the first non-impactor to use this mold we've gotten. Because the only other one I could think of is Impactor. Like, they've done a couple versions of Impactor using Impactor. How many times can I say Impactor in one sentence? And here's his teammate? Would they be teammates or would they just fight each other? Would you get the werewolf from New York? American Werewolf, whatever that movie was called? Would you get him in there for a triple threat? But you know, this figure, it's pretty much on par, I think, with Siege Impactor. As in, it's pretty good, but it's not the best. So, things are different. The color scheme, obviously. This black and green and silver is looking pretty cyber goth. It kind of fits Frankenstein, I guess. Those movies were black and white, but I don't know. Rotting flesh put together. I guess it could go green. Is this a reference to gangrene? I don't know. The head sculpt is new and looks very tiny on this body. But, you know, it's Frankenstein-y enough. With red eyes and those signature bolts through the sides of his head, I think. They don't really have the full effect. He does have a Decepticon insignia right there, which I don't think he'd be on the side of the bad guys, really. When you look at the story of Frankenstein, it's not his fault he was put together. Really, he's the victim in his own story. He didn't want to be built. He was just many dead bodies. So I don't think if you turn that idea into a robot, he would be a bad guy. Dr. Frankenstein's probably the bad guy in that. And the townspeople that tried to kill him. He does retain Impactor's shoulder-mounted shockwave head, but in nice gray and red. The only thing else that's new are the hands. To get his iconic pose. You cannot, however, rotate the wrists to have him not do that pose. Even when he's calm, they're just... You could fold them away, but you don't have anything to attach, and also they removed the ports that were on Impactor. You cut off his hands, and now you can't even replace him with anything. Not groovy. But other than that, he's solid. He has the Impactor massive gaps in the shins that I completely ignored in that review, because they weren't as distracting to me as they are to other people. And he does have molding to sort of try and get across, like the Frankenstein stitched together, like thigh details are asymmetrical. The chest plate is new and has nice details. It doesn't have his reverse pecs, or his impectors, as somebody once eloquently put it. And not really much else. That is a massive Decepticon symbol right on his tank treads. And not... Oh, on the other one as well. It's hard to see for some reason with my lighting, but yeah. Those are pretty big. He does have 2 accessories. Something to kind of resemble a Tesla coil. You know, the things I imagine Dr. Frankenstein probably used to try and generate the electricity to bring him to life. And you can plug that somewhere. Where does the box want you to plug it? I see. You kind of plug it in on the side of his arm, almost Megatron-esque. And this green bit does stand out a bit, unfortunately. You do have a weapon. It doesn't seem like a gun. I guess he would be an electric type Pokemon if he uses it as a Tesla coil. Probably what made the Bride of Frankenstein's hair go like that. She touched his Tesla coil. You also get 1 effect part, which I never even took out of the box. What kind of toy reviewer am I? There we go. To further drive that electric typing, you get some purple lightning. And I believe you're supposed to plug it, into the Tesla rod coil like that. But also, is this what happens in a purple rainstorm? I made myself sad. This guy is alright if you want a Frankenstein transformer, which is a very weird thing to want. The head is on a mushroom peg, but it feels like it's giving a bit of up and down. Not due to the transformation joint. That might be a ball joint. Might be a ball joint up into his neck. Yeah, it definitely feels like a ball joint. The shoulders are universal. Go beyond 90 degrees. If you want, you can have him do that. Why would Frankenstein? Well, maybe he wants to surrender. Maybe he's sick of running, and maybe he's sick of hurting people accidentally, so maybe he wants to surrender. Bicep swivel, 90-degree elbow, and no wrist swivel technically. Does this count as a wrist swivel? I'm going to say no. Especially with his hands in that awkward position. He does have the ab crunch, which is locked in. Hips, universal, go all the way out. You do not have a thigh swivel, but you do have a knee swivel. And a 90-degree bend. And the awkward ankles of Impactor, where they do tilt, but like that. And they fold down. They're not the easiest ankles in the world to work with. If you get a slight bend like that, you can get relatively close to a relaxed neutral stance. That's the robot mode. It's a very odd choice to do Frankenstein as a tank. Frankentank, if you will. Speaking of, ooh. So here's tank mode, and it looks awesome in this color scheme. Like the uniform black with green accents. Honestly, it works a hell of a lot better than Impactor did. I like purple and yellow, but this color scheme is very not Autobody. But this works for me. And I like the Tesla coil as the cannon of the tank. That's funny. Even though you have a cannon right up here, you can still, obviously, put in the lightning effect part. Looks pretty good. Rolls decently well. The front wheels might not get very much traction, but you still have a turret swivel. You have a bit of this kind of thing, which is transformation, but I don't know if you want to use it. But here he is, next to Draculus. And honestly, if you're only getting one of these, I recommend Frankentron. I also have to mention the plastic. Like, Impactor has a bit of a gloss feeling to him, but Frankentron does not. He feels, I don't know, matte. Maybe not matte, but just like kind of bare plastic. But let's face it, Draculus was pigeonholed the moment he was announced because that's the only Batformer we've had in years, and it happened in Titan's Return, and it's still very flawed. So it was inevitable that he was going to have some flaws, but a few years later, 2 years later specifically, and you use Siege and use a fairly nice mold that hasn't suffered any mold degradation, not hard to make a better toy. If you're into this thing, if you're a fan of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and you just want a robot of it that also happens to turn into a tank, then yeah, sure, he's worth it. You also have a Decepticon insignia on the secondary cannon as well, which isn't visible in robot mode. But where else shall we go with these monsters, the universal monsters, for collab? Bride of Frankenstein? I already brought her up, but like, sure, you could use one of the available fembots to turn into a Bride of Frankenstein. Preferably not that Legacy Prime RC, because that mold is not the best. But there are a bunch of fembots that could probably make a decent Bride of Frankenstein. The werewolf? The Wolfman? Why not Wolfman? We have Titans Return Wolfwire, Weird Wolf. Why not remold him into the Wolfman? That seems like it might work. Remove the clear plastic. That was most people's problem with Wolfwire. Mine's never broken, but there have been stories of other people's breaking. Maybe remove that, but yeah. He could be the Wolfman. I bet you could do a pretty good Invisible Man. I'll have you know. I'm holding one, a test sample right here. The Invisible Man. The Invisible Bot. And what's that? Is he transforming? Found out his alt mode. I can't remember very many other Universal monsters that come to mind. Swamp Thing. Is that DC? There's a creature from the Black Lagoon. That's another one. I don't know what you would use for the creature of the Black Lagoon. Probably figure out something. I don't mean to end this review on a downer, but this is the first Halloween where I don't have my grandmother. Her birthday is Halloween. It's many years I tried to get her to do something. I'd always ask my grandmother, "What do you want to do for your birthday? Let's do something." But I just never wanted to do anything for her birthday. I think I'm over it, but it's hard to talk about it. It just makes it all much more real, I guess, than I want it to be. Even though it is real and... What's that? I hear something in the bathroom. Uh-oh. I gotta go deal with that. Keep it weird. Happy Halloween.